Welcome to the underground, you rebel scum. This is the American Expat. I'm trying a little experiment here. I'm live, but I'm also recording, which means that this is very energy intensive on all the stuff that I've got here. I don't know how long it's going to actually last, but I wanted to see if I could do this and then have a good version of this that I could upload later, perhaps, possibly, or to other platforms. I'm not sure what to do with it, but I'm going to find out if it works. And as you see from the title of this, we're talking about Canadian Bill C-63, Online Harms Bill. I was looking on the internet at the news, and I just happened upon something saying that, according to this bill, if it gets passed, then, basically you can go to prison for life if you are found guilty of, I guess, advocating for genocide on the internet or something like that. And I've heard a lot of stuff lately talking about that sort of thing, and then actually going in and looking at it, it turns out it's not true. So I wanted to take a look at this bill myself to see if that's actually the case. And I think you'll find what I found very interesting. Stick around, we're going to be talking about that. Oh, thanks for sticking with us. Just the last little bit of coffee. Before we get too far into the video, I do want to encourage each of you to join in the conversation. I'm not an expert at all, so you probably know more about this than I do. Maybe, if you looked at the bill anyway. I actually did. Like I said, we've been hearing all kinds of stuff like this TikTok ban. They're saying this is going to be used to, cancel Rumble and all this stuff. And then it turns out when you actually go and look at the bill, that's not the case. It has more to do with if it's owned by a foreign adversary, kind of like TikTok, So we'll see what happens with TikTok. That's another interesting thing that's happening, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. As far as this bill, however, I did go through and I did look through it. At first, there was a lot of stuff in there about, people committing crimes against children on the internet, that sort of thing, which I thought, well, that you definitely want to have laws that protect children and keep them safe. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe they were like, because the act touches on different things. Maybe it was connected with that there was already, a punishment of that type, which I feel like if you're committing crimes, horrible crimes against children like that, you probably life in prison is probably the best punishment that could be given to someone like that. But no, they were right. I found it here. It'll be in subsection 318, part 1 of the Act. It's replaced by the following language here. Under advocating genocide, every person who advocates or promotes genocide is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for life. So there it is. It's right there in the bill. Yes, it does. It does say that if you get on the internet and you start advocating for genocide, then, you can go to prison for life. At first, looking into that, you're like, well, who in their right mind is going to be advocating for genocide anyway? That's a horrible thing. Your everyday person is probably not going to find themselves guilty of advocating for genocide. But then you start to think about the craziness of everything right now, and you start to wonder, well, what does that mean exactly? What counts as genocide? It doesn't specifically say, like if you're saying we need to destroy this entire, group of people or something like that. In fact, I have heard people saying that if you're, against, let's say, transgenderism and that sort of thing, or trans athletes, that sort of thing, then you are advocating for genocide of trans people. And I thought, okay, we've got a problem here. This could turn into a problem. You think that you're just getting on the internet and you're commenting on whatever the political thing is of the day, and the next thing you know, you're being reported, because this bill also requires the social media companies and the internet companies to report you and to police this sort of thing. All of a sudden you find out, oh man, they reported me to the government for my opinions about trans athletes, and now I have advocated for genocide on the internet, and I'm going to go to prison for life. I mean, these this is why we have to have free speech. Hey, I see Devil Dog. Welcome. Glad to see you here. We'll see how long the equipment lasts with what I'm doing. This is very, like I said, energy intensive. I've got it recording, and I'm doing this live at the same time to see how long it can last doing that. But so, you've got to worry about that. You never know what they're going to count. Sorry, I'm getting my notebook here. What could be counted as genocide or advocating for genocide? You could think that you're just talking about something completely normal, and the next thing you know, some internet person has reported you to the government agency, which this thing also goes through and creates all kinds of government agencies. I don't know what's going on over there in Canada. I don't usually... it doesn't come across my radar all that often because I don't have that much of a connection to Canada. I've been up there a couple of times, to Toronto and other places. But for the most part, I really, I just assumed that Canada's like the United States, except another smaller version of it, something along those lines. But I never hear about this stuff. Every once in a while, you hear about some crazy law like their speech laws. Well, this is expanding it quite a bit, so now... yeah, you better be careful what you say on the internet. I don't know what they're thinking is going to happen with this. I don't know if they expect social media companies to actually bend the knee and do this. Canada's not that big of a market. Let's face it. If they're looking at it and you have the United States, which is seemingly swinging the other direction, and they have this huge market, or other places that have some sense about them, and then you have Canada making these demands, and they're like, no, we're probably not going to bend to your demands. And I guess you just won't have social media anymore because you these crazy demands. I think that's already happening with Facebook, isn't it? With the news and that sort of thing, where if you are in certain countries, because of the laws that have been passed, you can't get your news through social media. Something to do with money and that sort of thing. I think that's... the news companies themselves not being very happy that Facebook is making money off of their articles. That's something they'll have to work out. But I guess Facebook and some of the other companies, the social media end of things, they've decided that they're big enough that they don't care. And they may be right. A lot of these newspapers and even cable news, they're kind of on their way out because most people are consuming their news through social media. Everything is happening on social media, so it's a little bit worrisome. You never know what you're going to accidentally say that's going to be suddenly you've stepped on a landmine with these laws, especially in Canada. Here in the United States, I believe that free speech still reigns supreme, and there's a reason for that. Sure, there are people that are going to have awful opinions, that are going to say terrible things on the internet, but it's a free country. And you just have to, let's not try and, coddle everybody or keep them in a special playpen or a padded pen or something all their lives. We need people to grow up and be a little bit stronger than that. When you get to be an adult, you have to deal with this stuff. You have to know how to navigate life. And, telling people or making it so you can't hear bad opinions isn't going to help anybody. It's only going to help the government who wants to control you. So let me see. I see a couple of things coming in here. Message retracted. I didn't get to see it in time. Sorry about that. You'll have to, whatever it was, send it again. Glad to see you here, though, Hadassah and Rain. Let's see. Nunya, Texas on the back 20. Glad to see you here. Everybody who's here. It's, like I said, I've said this, it's a little bit of an experiment what I'm doing with the live stream here. I've got the camera recording what I'm saying while I'm doing the live stream, so it's broadcasting and recording all at the same time. I've got this microphone, it's broadcasting and recording onto the computer at the same time, which is very energy intensive, so I'm not sure how long it's going to actually last because, I have an A7 IV, that's the camera that I'm using, and unlike the A7S III, it has a tendency to get too hot and shut off, so I don't know how long it's actually going to last, but this will be an interesting experiment just the same. At some point, I expect the little temperature thing is going to show up, the thermometer on the screen, the monitor for the camera, and it's going to just shut off. But this online speech stuff, this is why we have to have free speech. Because you don't know, language is not a perfect science. If you actually do any studying of the English language, you'll see that all the rules of grammar, it's all contradictory. Words can be used in a way to mean different things. And it's all up to interpretation, or, you have to figure out, okay, what did the person actually mean? I mean, in context, when you're having a conversation with someone, you can usually figure out what they mean. But if somebody's typing something on the internet, then anybody can take offense to it and, interpret it however they want. And that can go very badly when you have laws like the one that Canada's passing, this C-63 Online Harms Act or whatever. It can go really, really bad, and you could find yourself in trouble. And you don't advocate for genocide. You don't hate anybody. You want everybody to just get along. And the next thing you know, you're clapped in irons for the rest of your life because, well, you said the wrong stuff on the internet. Maybe this is a good reason for people to just not get on the internet. Avoid social media at all costs. It's full of crazy people that will take what you said and interpret it in the wrong way and get you in trouble. But luckily, I live in the United States where we still have free speech, as I said. Let's see, Texas Jan 57. I am in favor of removing all warning labels and let nature take its course. Yeah, oh man. My wife was commenting on this. We order stuff sometimes from an Asian market, and there's one nearby that's too small and costs way too much, so we'll order it and have it delivered. And everything comes with these labels that say, this is known to the state of California to cause cancer. And you have this label on, I don't know, a ketchup bottle, or in this case it was sriracha sauce. And looking at it like, I buy this stuff all the time. It's made in California. What are they talking about? Is there like a color agent in there that causes some kind of problem? But it's like on everything, ridiculous stuff. And you start to wonder, does it really cause cancer? Or did they have some study that said, people who consume this product are more likely to end up with cancer or something, and they have no idea really. I don't know, but the labels do get kind of annoying. I've had chairs. I remember when I lived in California, my apartment had labels like that. Literally, the apartment had a label that said, the ceiling material in this apartment is known to the state of California to cause cancer. And, being young, we'd throw something. I wasn't a kid. I was, technically grown up, but young men messing around in the house, you throw something and it bumps the ceiling and all this stuff starts, the popcorn stuff that they used to spray on ceilings. You hit that and it starts coming down, and that label's there. So you're like, oh man, what do I do? Like, hold my breath, run out of the room. What are we supposed to do now? This stuff coming down is going to give me cancer. I don't think it was asbestos. That would have been ridiculous, but everything was known to the state of California to cause cancer. I mean, just breathing the air in California will give you cancer, apparently. I wonder what they would say about the air that I was breathing in Beijing when I was living over there. I would just imagine they would be, distraught. They'd run out of labels. They wouldn't be able to have enough to label everything. In fact, the air got so bad. I remember one day it said it was raining when I lived in Beijing, and all I could see was this really, really brown sort of fog outside, and I went out and it was moisture, but it had like coated the ground with slime. It was a really bizarre sort of thing walking around in that. But online hate speech, whatever. They have a bunch of other stuff in there as well. I'm wondering if it's going to get to the point now where you end up with Canadian refugees at some point coming over for political refugee status or political asylum, because they can't live under such an oppressive regime. I don't imagine that the economy is doing all that great over there. I'm just waiting for that to happen, where people are like, okay, this has finally gone over the edge, and now I have to get out of here if I even want to have a chance at life and being able to breathe free, which is what everybody probably wants to do. Let's see, I see comments coming in here. Let me see what we've got. Nunya, Texas on the back 20. Problem, too many, believe I have to be careful what I say on YouTube because, 3/4 of what told Devil Dog. I do not like all of the political correctness anyway. I think that people can say what they want to, even if they do say idiotic things. I completely agree with that. I remember as a kid, people would say things that made you mad, right? And then the response is just, well, it's a free country. Sue me or something, Well, that's the fact. This is a free country, and I'm sorry if you're offended by people on the internet. You need to grow up and realize that there are awful people in the world that say things that you don't like. There are also people that are not awful, and sometimes you just have the wrong opinion. I'm not saying, here with the genocide thing, I'm pretty sure that most people agree that genocide is a bad thing. But there are people that will twist that definition and make it so that genocide can be anything. You're just talking about a political opponent that you don't like, and the next thing you know, they're saying you're guilty of advocating for genocide. Just imagine the people, let's say with the Palestine situation, that could be applied to both sides of that. Let's say you come out and you're in support of, Palestine needs to have their own place and be free. And you have these Palestinians that are calling from the C-63 or whatever, basically advocating for genocide in Israel. And they could label you with that and say, hey, you're advocating genocide. Or on the other side, you have all of them saying that the Israelis are trying to commit genocide against the Palestinians. So you stand up in support of Israel for protecting themselves or whatever. And the next thing you know, Canada has said that you're now guilty of advocating for genocide and you get to go to prison for the rest of your life. I guess it's safe just not to, express any opinions at all. Just hide in your house and don't do anything. Don't turn on the TV. Just don't talk to anybody, and then you'll be safe. That's the way to live. Let's see. Devil Dog. My mom told me all the time when I was a kid, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Yeah, it's about time that little phrase came back. I mean, it's crazy to me that people think that they have to be protected on the internet. I understand protecting children, right? The bill also has a bunch of stuff in there about protecting children. But when you get to be an adult, I'm sorry, you just need to grow up and be able to handle things. Because there are going to be people that you don't like. You're going to have to work with them sometimes. And that's just life. You can't run and hide. You can't go and say, oh, that's not fair. I don't want to have to deal with such and such thing. Guess what? People have different opinions than you, and that's just the way that it is. So you just got to none of you watching this probably have any problem with that. You probably agree. But somebody needs to tell these kids about that. I think it's too late for my generation. I don't know what happened to us. We're going along, and it's all about you can be an astronaut or the president or whatever. And the next thing you know, now millennials are just a bunch of crybabies. I made a video just recently about Gen Z. Apparently, they've kind of swung the opposite direction to millennials. And they're pretty based, I guess, as people say. They like Trump. They don't like woke stuff. And that's interesting. I guess that in the process of coddling all of the millennials and turning them into a bunch of babies, grown-up children, as in they grew up but never grew up, they forgot all about Gen Z, just made a bunch of assumptions about what they liked and, ignored them. And it turns out that they're growing up and becoming normal people, real humans that have good common sense. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. That's according to some studies and stuff. Some people have said that, other studies suggest other things, but, that's the way that it goes. We'll have to see what happens with that. Let's see. 90 Texas on the back 20. Grandpa lives to 98, smoked, drank, ate from farm, not a box. That's another thing about the food. I've noticed that they've got all kinds of crazy things they tell you about food. Now the healthiest people seem to be saying, eat just meat, and you'll be all right. I remember when people are telling you, don't drink milk, don't do this, just no fat. You don't want to have fat in your diet, even though you really do need it. So we'll just replace it with sugar and see what happens. Turns out that's really bad for your heart and your health. So I don't know. Is there any... I wish there was somebody saying like, hey, this is what actually helps. Somebody that does real studies instead of just telling you whatever. Let's see. Devil Dog. Funny that the three of us that are chatting here are in Texas. Maybe Jay needs to move to Texas. I did live in Texas briefly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area once upon a time, long ago, very, very briefly. I like Texas. I mean, great place. Houston, I've noticed, has kind of gone downhill. I don't know if that's the same. I haven't been there for a little while. The last time I went there, I had to go visit the Chinese embassy or consulate, I guess, in Texas. In Houston. Is it even still there? It seems like they closed one of those. But that was a terrible experience. The people there were real jerks. I mean, that was a long time ago now. But yeah, Texas is a great place. I mean, I remember in 2008 and all through that period, come back to the United States, things were pretty grim. Lots of, you go through small towns in America, like where I was from, lots of shops closed, boarded up. And then I went to Dallas, and it was incredible. It was like they're building stuff, and nothing really stopped. It was doing great compared to the rest of the country. So, yeah, Texas is an incredible place. I expect that it's going to replace California at some point as, the big economy in the country. California's absolutely gutted themselves. They no longer, that's a disaster. Let's see. Devil Dog, most of the Canadians that I know want to move to the U.S. I've encountered the same thing. I keep thinking they're passing all these crazy laws, and when I was in Canada before, I'd watch the TV, and it would be, back then we didn't call it woke, but it was woke before there was wokeness. And I just assumed that Canadians were kind of that way. And then I actually talked to Canadians, and none of them have that way of thinking. They're all like, our government's out of control. And, that freedom and Bill of Rights sort of stuff. And, yeah, it's interesting how the government is absolutely out of control over there. Let's see. Jay making, I wish I was making big bucks. I think when I've looked at this, if I upload videos every day, then I can make about 30 cents a day on the channel. It doesn't grow. That's the problem with the channel. It doesn't grow. So if I pay money to Google, I can grow my subscribers, which is stupid. Don't pay Google anything to do that, because that doesn't work in the end. The people, they're not real. But if I just sit here, I don't grow. It's like it'll shrink a little bit and gain one. It just doesn't grow. I don't know if it's me or if it's Google or what it is, but I can make about 30 cents a day. So not nearly enough to pay for the time, I guess you could say. I wish that it did. I wish that the channel would grow and that it would pay, and then I could, devote all kinds of time to looking and doing research and all of that. But unfortunately, it just doesn't grow. I don't know if that's a Google-wide thing or if this is YouTube, just going down, which some people have suggested that it is. That the days of YouTube reigning supreme in this market, I guess you could say, is over, and it's going to start shifting toward things like X and Rumble or whatever else. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, or if it's just that now they have to compete because they ruined themselves. It's my understanding that Google is making some changes to try and, I guess, rein in the wokeness that has kind of destroyed them. I think that fiasco with their AI thing, Gemini, really woke them up. When they lost $90 billion in one day, it kind of woke them up to the fact that, hey, maybe America doesn't like this stuff and it's bad for business. And maybe it's time for the business to start trying to make money. I don't know if they were getting money from, it's almost like these companies are being subsidized, and so they don't care. But maybe they're waking up now, and maybe they'll turn it around so that YouTube actually is worthwhile. I don't know that it ever will be for me, but, we can try anyway. I don't know how to get the thing to grow. I really don't. Because if you look at it, I don't know who they're actually, where the impressions are coming from. That's one of the terms, if you have a YouTube channel, you can look at the number of people that they show a video to. It's not that many. It's like they just don't want to put it out there. I don't have any data anymore. It used to show me okay, people that watch your channel, they watch these other channels. It doesn't show me any of that anymore, so I can't tell what even what the audience would like to see. I have no idea what anybody wants. Not that it matters. I'm going to get on here and say what I think. That doesn't seem to be very popular with people. So yeah, the channel doesn't grow. I could never pay the bills with what this does. Like I said, I'm lucky if I get 30 cents in a day. And I don't see that until it generates enough to reach $100. So it'd be like maybe every 6 months I'll get $100 from YouTube. So definitely not worth it. I mean, the camera alone that I'm using, if I wasn't using it just for my own personal reasons, like to go out and take photos and that sort of thing, then it would be such a waste. I mean, Sony a7 IV is still over $2,000, I believe, for just the camera body, not to mention the lenses, which, I've got A few lenses, that's just two of them. I've got those can be, $1,000+ a piece, depending on what you're getting. Not worth it at all. It'll never pay for itself. Never. I wish that it would, but it just doesn't. Let's see. What do we got here? Devil Dog. The big cities in Texas aren't too good. Right outside in the suburbs or country are better politics-wise. Yeah, big cities, it's always that way. You get, I don't know why, but the politics in big cities tends to go, I think it's corruption. It's just a matter of corruption. Because most of the people that I talk to, I mean, you look at New York. Donald Trump goes to New York. He goes to some big event, and people are cheering, and they're happy to see him. Excuse me. And yet they tell you that New York is absolutely blue and horrible, and I just don't believe it. I don't know. I feel like there's something else going on with that. Let's see. Savage Air Guns. Every Canadian I hear talk about their health care is very poorly. Met people traveling to U.S., pay high-cost operations, or they would say, we wait to die. Sad because not all can afford that treatment. It's true. Excuse me. A lot of this, the healthcare thing really upsets me because a lot of it is being subsidized by you and I, the working class, regular people in America, paying ridiculous prices for medications and that sort of thing, is what makes it possible for the other countries that have free healthcare to get their medications at very low costs. You're paying for it, whether you realize it or not. The drug companies agree to sell them to the other governments for cheap prices, and then they charge you ridiculous prices where you can't afford it. And that's how they manage to balance it out. So they make enormous amounts of money off of you. And it's the same with all of the equipment, all of that stuff. You're subsidizing it. And so I hear people advocating for Europe, they have free healthcare here or really cheap healthcare. And I'm like, yeah, well, do you know why they have it? It's because of regular old people in America paying for it. And what thanks do they get, Well, too bad you can't afford the operation. I guess you're just going to lose your hand or whatever. That really bothers me, the whole healthcare arguments that take place. It's like nobody sees what's really going on. It's great that we have incredible, technology and healthcare possibilities here in the United States. I wish they were more affordable. I hate what they did with Obamacare. They went in and it didn't help anybody at all. I hate all of that. I wish, like when I was in China, there's no free healthcare in China, but it is dirt cheap somehow. I don't know how, but there's no national health program or anything. You just go into the hospital. You have to pay up front, but you can get what you need and it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's probably another case of we're subsidizing. I think that the camera is doing something. Bear with me just a second here. I'm going to click a button on this. I think that it ran out. That's what happened. I forgot there were some other files on the camera. We'll see what I can. That was just an experiment, so I guess it's done recording at this point. But we're still broadcasting live, so that's okay. That much is working. I might as well stop this audio thing too, since it's there we go. Just set that aside, let the computer use all of its resources for just the broadcast. Let's see, what else have we got here? Savage Air Guns, let's see, I saw that one. Also, Savage Air Guns, remember Devil Dog is good, lived backwards there. Yeah. Ah, man. I never noticed that. I guess that's funny. Very good. Let's see. Got an ad. Hey, yeah, they're running the ads. I don't, probably me and anyone else who does YouTube, that you're probably not getting very much out of those ads. As little as I get, it used to be double that before. I think I was getting the same number of views on things. It just, excuse me, it's just not worth as much anymore. I don't think that YouTube is getting as much money for advertisements, or there's just less demand. Probably something to do with the economy. Good indicator. Let's see. Savage Air Guns, you look good and energized, expat, and your camera lighting looks fantastic on my phone. Yeah, I switched the color mode on the camera. Normally, I would just put it in standard mode and run it through, whatever, but I put it in one of the color, what do they call them? Creative looks on the camera. It brightens up the colors, I think. I do have a couple of lights here shining on me, and sunlight coming in a window probably helps a lot. Not to mention the lens. The lens that I've got on it is, it's a decent, I mean, it's not a super expensive lens, but it's pretty good, a prime lens, so everything should be nice and sharp. Not looking too film-like. But then again, this isn't a video. I mean, we're doing this live. So it should be crystal clear, like a live television broadcast in HD. I think that this is broadcasting in HD. I don't know. It's supposed to. I don't know if YouTube has it in HD or not. But, yeah. Let's see. I watched Who as you get extra. Yeah. Extra 3 cents. Probably more like 0.005 cents or something like that. I wish that the advertisers were paying me, directly. That would be great. I get on here and people contact me and say, hey, we want to give you money to advertise on your show. Of course, I don't have a big enough audience. We talked about that situation where I just don't have the growth. It just nobody's coming in to watch the show, so I don't... I'm not worth that much when it comes to advertisements. I'm sure if we had a really, really big audience, it would be worth a lot more. But, well, it is what it is. Maybe someday the audience can grow again. I don't know what I would talk about on here that would interest people in coming in. Maybe if I looked a little bit better, health-wise. If I was a handsome face to look at, then people would come in and they'd want to actually see what we had to say. But we'll have to see. Let's see, Savage Air Guns. Mine is streaming in 720p on highest quality mode. So that's what they're running it at 720p. I guess later on it'll probably be available in 1080p. I think that's what the broadcast itself is actually sending out, is a signal that's in 1080p. But YouTube, well, they have a lot of stuff. They like to process things. So we'll see what it does. Let's see, Devil Dog. So did I, let's see, 6 cents original? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe. I'll have to see what it says later on. It'll take a couple of days to be able to know how much the video is actually making. But that's the way that it works. YouTube, I don't know how they make the determination, but depending on you and your content, they'll say like, well, you're worth this much for every 1,000 views. And yeah, it's not that much in my case. I shouldn't complain. It's probably better than what a lot of other people do. If you're doing shorts videos on YouTube, those are absolutely worthless. And it's my understanding they'll actually hurt your channel if you're putting them out. Because you'll get a bunch of people that might subscribe, but they only care about shorts. So when you put a video out, the algorithm will supposedly send it out to them for impressions, and they won't click on it. And the next thing you know, your video is dead. I made a couple of shorts a while back, but I stopped doing that because I don't like the style, the vertical thing. I don't like that. I've always learned, like if you're doing recording, like don't do that. That's like the amateur way of doing it with your cell phone. It's like turn it on its side, for heaven's sake. People don't see like that. But now that's somehow become popular, I guess because of TikTok, which is being banned. Kind of being banned. I don't know. That's a complicated thing, the whole TikTok. I don't know if it's like I guess it's multiple things. Somebody I think it was actually Devil Dog that said something in a comment about it. I think it's a combination of national security interests and corruption at the same time. You've got people that are worried about China getting information or maybe manipulating the American public, especially the youth. And then you have someone that's like, that's the biggest, social media platform out there of its kind. And they're like, I bet, if we force them to sell, then they'll have to sell at a discount because they only have 165 days to make this work. And some other big social media company that has influence in the government could be like, hey, do this. And then they pick it up at a discount. I don't know, something like that. I just expect that that's all kind of combined in there. People were worried that they were going to use it to ban Rumble and X or something like that, but those are all American companies, I believe. So I don't expect that that's going to happen. They're definitely not owned by foreign adversaries, so I don't think that was one of the things that got me worried about the Canadian bill, that it might not be what they're saying it is. But no, it is. They will put you in prison for life if you say the wrong things on the internet. But as far as the TikTok ban, it's not quite what they were saying. But it definitely is a TikTok ban. Some other people were saying it's not. I guess it is if they don't divest themselves of their Chinese ownership, which the Chinese government has now come out and said, like, there'll be consequences if you. Boy, can you find a better way to say, like, we definitely have an influence on what's happening with TikTok, and we don't want you to stop our operations in your country, than saying, like, you better not do that or there'll be consequences. I'd tell them, like, okay, you can continue to have TikTok in America, but you have to let us put Google and YouTube and everything else in your country. And then we'll see about not making them divest. Just open up your population to our influence, and we'll let you continue with your TikTok and see what happens. But, it's not ever going to happen because they're smarter than that. They know, like, if they put that in there, they're going to drive our population insane. So, yeah, that's never going to happen. Let's see. Savage air guns, it would be okay if it was banned only because it was a security risk and a national threat. Then not add any more wording that could imply any new laws. But we know politicians and lobby groups. Yeah. Let's see. Nancy sold her stock. Yeah, she knew what was coming. She got out, and you really should just watch whatever she's doing, and you'll probably make money, or at least keep your money safe. But the ban on TikTok, I'd say, look, okay, you can have TikTok here, but you can't have a separate version of it. You need to give us the same one that you have in China, Douyin, which is what it's called. I've actually been on that. People in China do live stream all over the place. Most of it is for the purpose of selling things. I don't know if you guys have heard of, like, the Lipstick King. That's one of the biggest people in social media in China is the Lipstick King. It's this guy that sells lipstick. He's not, I don't know what his deal is. I guess he just sits there and he puts lipstick on and describes how it feels. And then people buy enormous amounts of, I guess, beauty products from this guy. I don't believe he's part of the LGBTQ whatever community. He's just making enormous amounts of money, and that's the kind of stuff that you find on their stuff. It's either people selling or people doing. I've heard people say that theirs is full of people doing math and all that sort of stuff. No, it's not. It's full of people eating food, is what I mostly found on their live streaming apps. You turn it on, and there's some people, like, hanging out and eating spicy food, or the Lipstick King kind of people selling stuff. That's most of what theirs is. I don't know how ours got to be so crazy. You'd think that in, the capitalist country, people would be trying to use it to make money instead of doing ridiculous things. But, maybe we're not as capitalist as we think. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. What are we at? 1:13. How long have I been doing this live stream here? We've been live for approximately 38 minutes. Wow. I'm surprised the camera held out all this time. It hasn't shut off. So, I talk about the A7 IV getting hot and shutting off. I guess not yet. It's doing pretty good. Pretty good. I should get myself an A7S III, but maybe they'll come up with an A7S IV. That's the Sony camera, and I'll get one of those, and then I'll have the ultimate camera. Or, I don't know if you guys heard this, speaking of the business world where it comes into cameras and that sort of thing in YouTube, I guess Nikon has bought Red cameras, which they make cinema cameras. They were suing everybody that tried to have RAW files. It's a complicated thing that only people that like cameras really care about. So I won't get into the details, but Nikon bought them, and it'll be interesting to see the kinds of cameras. Maybe I should think about getting a Nikon, not the ones that they have now, which are pretty good, but maybe wait a little bit and see what they come out with. I say that because I noticed on X, on Twitter, Sony, their marketing people in America, what was it, Women's Day? They made this post about celebrating female identifying people, and I'm like, oh, man, why? I really like their cameras, I like their stuff, and then they go and put something like that out, and it's like, I don't like that. I can, kind of convince myself that it's just some idiot that's part of their marketing team and not the opinion of the company. But who knows? Maybe Sony's full of. I have a difficult time imagining Japanese people being as like on the woke side of things. They, if you ever meet Japanese people, they tend to, they're not like that. So I don't know. Yeah, red cameras, they're expensive things. I've kind of played with the idea about getting a Blackmagic cinema camera just to see how that looks. It looks beautiful when I see the videos people put together with them. But Sony cameras aren't bad either. They're not a cinema camera, but that would be interesting to try one of those out. Let's see. I remember that for Linus Tech Tips. Yeah, Linus Tech Tips. I wonder whatever. I haven't seen one of his videos in a long time. I guess he hasn't quit yet, but yeah, they were talking about those. They're, like I said, expensive little cameras, mostly for motion picture stuff. It wouldn't be like your average person doing a live stream is probably not going to be doing it with a red cinema camera. I don't think they would have the money for that. It'd be like, I'm going to go and do YouTube videos with an ARRI, 35 millimeter film camera. I've got the crane and everything. It would be interesting to see, but it would be a little bit overkill for this sort of thing. Now, I guess if you wanted to get your stuff on some bigger, more professional platform, like I want to be on Netflix, then having that red cinema camera might come in handy. But I don't think they would just put my random recordings onto Netflix. I mean, it's good to dream, I suppose, but I don't think that they would pay me for my stuff. It's probably the reason I don't grow on YouTube. It's just, too amateur whatever stuff. I'm just not on the level of someone that has a channel that grows. I'll have to figure that out. Maybe I just need to make, viral content. Start making viral video. I don't think that anybody that watches this would be interested. I don't know. Maybe what happens if you do this stupid thing? I should follow the direction the TikTok people are going, and then I'll grow. If I just do crazy stuff, then no, I don't think that I could ever stomach doing that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Nikon does. I don't think they've ever really been in the cinema camera or video camera market before. I used to have a Nikon, and it recorded very well. The video looked great. It was back before, these DSLRs and that sort had 4K video and all of that, except for maybe like really, really expensive ones. But it looked good. I think some of my earlier videos, like when I was in Thailand, they were recorded on a Nikon. Of course, I didn't have the editing software that I have now, so I don't know how much of that translated into the video or made it, that far, but it did record really nice looking videos. But somebody stole that camera, so that's gone forever. But maybe I would think about getting a Nikon again. I mean, they have been around a long time making cameras. Sony is pretty new to the camera world, unless you count them buying Minolta, and carrying all of that history forward as part of that. But now they're pretty new. But it's Sony, they can do all kinds of stuff. They have all kinds of technology and big money. So who knows? It'd be kind of hard to beat the Sony A7S III when it comes to the video quality. We'll have to see. Like I said, I always toy with the idea of getting some other camera just to see what it's like. But I don't even know. I guess it would work. If I plug the thing in like what I'm doing now, you can live stream like it's the signal coming to the monitor, and the picture. No, that wouldn't work. Using like a Blackmagic cinema camera to do a live stream. I'm sure there are people that do it. I'm sure there are. It would be ridiculous though. You'd almost might as well use like a cell phone. I think I went out and did some with this phone the other day, this iPhone, to see what it's like on the cinema. It's the iPhone 13. It's not even a 14 or a 15. I think the 15 Pro Titanium or whatever, it can do pretty good recordings. I know a guy that went to Egypt to do a show, and they took all his cameras and they went and bought iPhones, and they made a pretty good looking show using that. It can do ProRes RAW. and all of that. So, cell phones they're getting pretty far. They don't have the big lens on them though. You can't change it out. It is what it is. It's limited in that way. The sensor is tiny, so you can't get quite as good of quality, I guess, or as good of light coming in. Let's see. From Savage Airgun, Sony, Canon, Nikon are all huge billion-dollar asset companies. They all could make anything great if they want to. Yeah, they could, I suppose. I think all of them buy their sensors from Sony. So I don't know what they do. I guess it's all in the color science, as they call it. What it turns out looking like. The lenses are also a big part of it. Who has the good lenses? There are some companies that make really good lenses that you can get for some of these camera brands. I think Sony, you can get Zeiss lenses and some others. You can probably put whatever you want on there with an adapter, but then you lose that cool Sony autofocus, which has been their advantage for a long time. They have great autofocus. I don't know if you've noticed, like you'll be watching somebody in a video and they'll move. Oh, sorry, I bumped the microphone. And suddenly they're out of focus for a second, and then it focuses in. The Sony cameras don't do that. It's pretty good continuous autofocus. Like this, if I'm moving forward, I stay in focus the whole time. I don't think that it jumped at all. So they're pretty good for that. So if you're recording yourself, that's great to have, because you don't have to worry about somebody being over there trying to keep it in focus the whole time. It'll just track you, and you'll stay in focus no matter what you do. Because, we're amateurs and not professionals, so we don't know what we're doing. But if you put an old lens on there, it might look really great, but the autofocus is not going to work because it doesn't have that capability. But, if you know what you're doing and you can get it in focus and you make sure that you don't leave the spot where you're in focus, it'll probably be pretty good. You can put whatever you want on there. You can even take your Nikon lenses and throw it on your Sony camera if you've got the right adapter. I don't know. I guess it's hard because, they only, I wish there was a universal mount so that every lens could work on every camera, but it just, you end up stuck in one ecosystem. It's kind of like if you get into the Apple ecosystem, which I'm actually kind of glad. I have a Samsung phone that I'm so disappointed. It's so expensive to buy it, the Galaxy Note, or no, it's not the Note anymore. The Galaxy S23 Ultra. I got it when it was still the best phone out there, and I'm just so disappointed with the camera, so disappointed with all of it. It just, I wish that I had gotten the iPhone. And now I've got this iPhone. It's an older iPhone, but it just feels better and looks better in my hand than that stupid Samsung phone. I should have known better. They're running Google software. Man, just stick with the American. Well, Google is American, but you know what I mean. Apple, they have some political problems, but so does every company at this point. But yeah, I don't know. The camera is definitely better on the iPhone. I bet they use a Sony sensor. I don't know. But yeah, Nikon. I would consider getting myself a Nikon. Canon, they're pretty cool. I had a friend who had a Canon camera when I was in China. Took amazing photos. Always wanted to put together a YouTube channel when we were over there. We never got around to it. And, well, now none of us are in China, so that wouldn't work out. But, yeah, China doesn't really like people making YouTube channels in China. They kind of want to have control over what you're saying. I mean, if you see somebody that is making a YouTube channel in China that's doing really, really well, they probably have the sanction of the Chinese government, and their messages are pretty well controlled, especially if they're making those videos. You see them all the time. You get on, and it's like, I can do this in China that I can't do in America, and you're like, this is ridiculous. Most of that is, the Chinese government telling them what to say, or at least approving what they can and cannot say. I would be fine with that if it was like, well, I'm just doing I'm traveling to this place and I just want to show this really cool place. And they're like, okay, we'll put you in contact with the local tourist bureau or whatever, and they'll show you around. As long as it wasn't political in any way, I think I'd be fine with the government, telling you what you could and couldn't do, or where to go. But in their case, it's like they're making propaganda against Western countries. I hate that when I find that stuff. Oh man, it drives me crazy to hear the people saying that stuff. Just so ridiculous. Let's see. Savage Air Guns, I like my S22 Plus a lot, but am not a camera guy. I'll say this. The camera, like if you take photos, they look really good right out of the camera. If you're someone who's into photography, a lot of times they'll be like, no, it's too processed. But so is the iPhone. I mean, if you're using the cell phone, there's no other way to do it. The way that the cameras work on the phone, it's going to be really, really processed. I guess you can get raw files, but even that, it has limitations. They're getting better though. Like I said, the iPhone 15 Pro Max Titanium or whatever it is, it can do ProRes, it can do raw video, it can shoot in log format, which is I guess what everybody on the internet says is what you're supposed to record in. I was doing that, and I've noticed its limitations. Sometimes it's easier, especially if you're doing YouTube or something, and it's not something professional. Just shoot it right out of the camera, and you can make a little bit of changes to it to make it look nice. And that's easier. Let's see, Devil Dog, I have the S23 Ultra as well. I have never had an iPhone 2 proprietary. Yeah, I know what you mean when it comes to the proprietary stuff. I really liked the Samsung. I used to always have a Galaxy Note. I don't know why. I like to have the little pen thing, the S Pen, even though I almost never use it. But that little gimmick was what sold me on it. The S23 Ultra, it has the stylus, the S Pen. But again, I never use it. And as soon as I got it, then I saw this article about how the iPhone 15 Pro can shoot in log and do all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, I got the wrong phone, but it's too late. I already spent, the $1,500 or whatever it is for the phone. So I'm stuck with it. I'm not going to go buy another phone just because I like what it does. But yeah, I don't know. The other problem that I have with the phone is when I go overseas, a lot of times with the Samsung or something else, I'll get over there and it's like, well, it doesn't work on the network. Or the problem that I had where I got the Note 10 and then I come back to the United States and suddenly it's like, well, you can't put that on our network because it's the Chinese version. And I'm like, it works everywhere in the world. It's just not in America. And not because it doesn't work. It's because they won't let me put it on there. I guess they're afraid that it'll be spying on them or something. I don't know what they're afraid of. Maybe it is. Maybe that's what the problem is. But I can circumvent that. I can go and get, let's say you get Straight Talk, right? It uses AT&T and Verizon, but they won't stop me from using the Galaxy Note 10. Not that now that phone is so old that there's no point to actually using it. But, I could if I wanted to. I could. Maybe it would be spying on everybody. So it's good that I don't do that, because then I would be spying, not me, the phone would be spying. I don't know on who. Maybe it would be spying on me, and they're trying to protect me from getting spied on. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, the phones, they're always so much fun to play with. But I really like cameras. I wish that they weren't so expensive. I mean, there's always some great camera out there, some awesome lens. But the lenses, I feel like, are even worse. Like the camera, I don't know what to say about the cameras. The camera bodies even, it used to be you could get like a film camera, right? They obviously don't do video, but it's not like suddenly the camera body's outdated and now it won't take photos anymore, or people will think they're garbage. But with these digital cameras, if you go out there and let's say I've got the Sony a7 IV, and it's really, really awesome. In a year or two, that'll be junk. And, people will have some other great camera body. You'll have to replace the whole camera body. And I guess your lenses don't have to be replaced, but it didn't used to be that way. Your camera body was good until it broke. And then you could repair it. Now you can't do anything about it. It's just, it's unfortunate. So that's a very expensive hobby to have, doing photography. Of course, I still see people using the A7 III and the A7 II. So maybe they're good enough that they can last a long time. It's kind of like my MacBook Pro. I got that, it's future-proofed, and that has proven to be the case. It has lasted and continues to be able to handle everything I throw at it. So I'm quite pleased with that. I can understand getting future-proofed stuff. My wife got this, what was it, a Lenovo? It was like really, really expensive. Supposed to be this awesome new thing. And like a month in, it was already having problems. I'm quite pleased with the computer here and how it is held up. But, maybe if I got the new one, I would. No, I haven't ever heard anybody say they don't like the M1 and M2 MacBooks, so I'd probably still be happy with it. This one has an i9 processor, if you're wondering. You're probably not wondering, but it does. That's what's in there. And that's what I use to edit all my stuff, and it works great. Much better than that old Windows computer that I was using before. They couldn't do anything. I tried to edit stuff on there. It was so terrible. It'd just be freezing constantly. This one never has a problem. Let's see. Joe Morgan, sorry, I'm tardy, been morning. Well, hopefully, I know you're going through quite a bit over there. Hopefully getting things squared away and getting life to normal instead of crazy. But that's not the way that life works. It just continues to get crazier and crazier. But, we're here thinking about you anyway. Let's see. How long have I been? I've been on here forever now. I probably better get off of this and start doing some actual work. But I do want to say thanks, guys, for jumping on here. I'd love it if the audience could grow. Maybe someday it will. Maybe I'll figure it out someday, and we can figure out how to get more people in here. But I'm glad that you guys are here. It's always fun to have the conversations about stuff. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next one.
ไฟพะวงหลงเฝ้าสาวเจ้าบางปะกงทางห้วยงงหลงเกอหาโอเวรกรรมจำพราก